right, everybody. Well, this is a series that I've decided to do for the rest of the year, a free coaching call, the first Tuesday of every month. I'm going to do my very best to make sure my schedule's clear just so that you all can plan for that. And momentum was really on my mind this past week. I think this part of the year is really good that you're either starting to see momentum or maybe you're frustrated because you're not in momentum. And I just wanted to pause for a moment here and talk about what momentum is and how do you get yourself there. Oftentimes it's a product of getting ourselves unstuck too. Um, so what is momentum? Well, momentum is a force that keeps us moving once we've started to take action. It's critical because it allows us to sustain progress, increase our efficiency, and achieve results with less resistance. And it creates a positive cycle where small wins build confidence and motivation, leading to further achievements and making it easier for us to reach our goals, essentially propelling us forward with increased speed and effectiveness. And this idea of momentum, I heard, people would say this to me when I was in my sales career, and I didn't really know what it meant. And finally I said, well, what does this even mean? What does momentum even mean? And they said, you couldn't stop this, Christy, if you wanted to. Like the sales are coming. You have taken so much action in so many directions. There's nothing, you would really have to do something terrible to have this thing slow down. And this is applicable really anywhere in our life. If you think about going to the gym, and you start going to the gym and you start stacking these small wins and you're going day after day after day and you're like, man, is anything really happening? Is anything? And then you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and you go, oh my gosh, something is happening, right? Whoa. Now that all of those wins stacked on top of each other, all of those habits, the discipline of going every single day stacked on top of each other. And now you see a little bit of results, and that starts to create that momentum for yourself. Now it's easier for you to show up. It's easier to get the results because you're training your body and your muscles and you're feeding it appropriately. You're training it for what it's supposed to do. So now it's a little bit easier, right? And I think we've all probably taken a break from the gym, and muscle has memory. And so it's easier to get back into momentum because you've been there before. So momentum is created by doing these really small things every single day. And I want to talk a little bit about what I call my 6-step formula to getting yourself unstuck and into unstoppable momentum, because it really helps us break free from stagnation and allows us to take action now. And in fact, you'll realize by the end of this conversation that the action is really the only way. And I wasn't always the person that took a lot of action. I was the planner. I was the one that thought that it had to be perfect, that everybody's watching. I have to execute flawlessly. And the reality of it is, you're not going to get to where you're going if you're in your office trying to make it pretty and perfect. You don't even fully know what this thing is supposed to look like until you get out there and you start taking action. So a big piece of my success, and if those of you that have seen me over the years, has really just has been throwing all of this out the window, like the old Christie, the perfectionism, do I have to have the answers for everybody, and giving myself permission to really conduct my own little clinical study. And that reframing alone allowed me to just get out there and take massive action, because the reality of it is the clarity comes once you start taking action. So the best way to describe momentum is if you think about when you were a child, or maybe you still do this as an adult. I do if I can, getting out there and making a snowman. And you start with this little ball and you start rolling it and you start rolling it and it gets bigger and bigger. And you imagine if that thing is rolling down a hill, it just continues to pick up more snow and more velocity, and it gets bigger and stronger, and it gets easier to build that thing. In the beginning, it's really, really hard to roll that snowball, right? You're packing it, you're trying to get some ice in there, you're trying to figure out how to do it. But that really essentially is what momentum is. And the hardest part of momentum is getting started. And especially getting started when you don't have any of the answers. So the first step in creating momentum is making the decision. I had a gal who's in one of my group coaching programs last night left me a message. And there's a couple of things that she's trying to figure out. And I said, listen, like this whole thing is going to shift and change for you when you decide that you're going to figure it out. So either it's like you decide that this is the path that I'm going to step out on, and you step out on the path. There's still a ton of figuring out. Or it may just be like, hey, I'm going to decide to figure this thing out, and I'm going to decide to conduct my own clinical experiment, my own clinical study, and try a bunch of things on for size, or a bunch of avenues of how I'm trying to get to the next step on for size, and figure it out. But the important thing is, number one, you have to make the decision like this freaking thing is going to happen. I've decided, and then take a step in that direction. I do a Monday Kickstart call for the folks that are in my group coaching program. And yesterday's call, I was talking about speed and how success loves speed. And I don't know if this has happened to anybody else, who else is of my age, or if it's happened at a certain age for you. You don't have to share that. But I turned 44 in last September, and all of a sudden I feel like it's the race against time. I feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. And I'm just now finding the clarity of the path that I want to take. And there's so much. And I just feel like I have got to move fast and quick and swiftly. And I've got to spend the money. I've got to figure it out. I think that's another big thing that everybody's afraid to do, is to spend the money. Like, it's going to take you thousands if you want to make millions. It's going to take you thousands to figure this thing out. If you want to make billions, it's going to take you a lot of millions to make it. And the speed at which you can go, okay, I got that. Okay, what's the next lesson I have to learn? And you just keep taking the inspired action to figure it out, you're going to figure it out. But the minute that you stop and you think that the answers are not going to come to you, I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. So that's step one, is making the decision that, hey, I am going to either I'm going down this path, or I'm going to step out on a path and just figure out what this next chapter in my life is, or figure out this next piece of my business. For me right now, there's quite a bit of figuring out. There's an agency that I'm thinking about starting, that I'm in the figuring out stage of that. I'm like, okay, how does this email marketing thing work? I'm in the stages of figuring that out. I'm in the stage of figuring out, like, okay, how do I create content and keep it all repurposed? And I'm working with somebody on my brand messaging. I take me wherever I go, and I don't realize the uniqueness in the way that I teach and a lot of the things that I say, because I'm with me every single day. And so I've been working with somebody that's helping to extract a lot of the brand messaging. And so, but I've decided that I'm stepping out on all of those paths, and I'm going to figure it out. And I have a system for taking action in each one of those areas every single week. So that's step one. And then step two is, once you've decided, is to take start small, take action every single day so you can start to stack those wins, right? And so I think we've all worked out. I see Scott's in a gym right now. Anybody who's attracted to my energy, I'm sure works out and takes care of themselves. But if you think about like somebody who just wants to start working out, you don't tell them to go do the whole big thing, right? And I'm sorry, guys, I'll pick on you for a second here. The guys never listen. They're gonna go like stack the weight on like they did 4 years ago, and think that, and they're gonna be really sore, and that's totally fine. But in general, we always want to tell people to start small, because you don't want them to quit. Like, you don't want them to think, gosh, I'm so sore, or I couldn't do it and I failed. It's like, no, you haven't worked out in a year or in 6 months, or you've been traveling, or life's been stressful, or you've been sick. Start small, have a plan to get back on the horse, and start to see what you're capable of, and start to stack those wins. So progress fuels motivation. It's not the other way around. You have to take action, and that action is going to help you increase your motivation to take more action, because eventually you're going to start to see the wins stack up. So reduce the resistance, find the smallest way possible to do it. And this example came for me here recently. This person, I always knew that there was a huge platform inside of me, and books were a part of that. And I'll tell you, I was challenged by this amazing man that's helping me with my brand messaging. And he said, we're 10 sessions in. And he said, okay, I just want you to write, Christy. I just want you to write. I just got off a session with him before I jumped on this call. We meet twice a week. And I wrote this weekend, and I'm telling you, I couldn't stop writing. But it was so hard to think about like an end goal of how much I had to write. He just said, just write one paragraph, Christy, just write one paragraph. And I think I ended up with 4,000 words. And the amount of things that surfaced in this writing, it's just validation that, when they say that the results you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. Well, this has been work that I've been avoiding for a long time. But what's really helped me is just taking it one bite at a time. So do the same thing for yourself. This is a great way to get yourself into momentum is start really small. If you're looking to find a new career or you're looking to figure something out in your business, maybe you're looking to pivot or take something to the next level or figure out email marketing. I will tell you that one of the things that's been incredible helpful in my program is just putting a plan together for people. So a lot of people come to me because they're stuck in their current situation and they want out of it. And just identifying that, okay, here's where you are. Can you set aside an hour every single day, 1 hour at the end of the day to hop on your laptop and start doing some research, start going down rabbit holes, start trying some things on for size. And think about, man, in 2 years, you could be out of your situation, or in 12 months, you could be out of your situation. That provides so much hope to people and gets them moving in a forward direction, gets them starting to move into momentum to figure this thing out. That I notice their energy is higher, their excitement is higher, depression, anxiety goes down just because we have a plan in place and they've set aside time to do it. So what I'm talking about here is committing to the process. And part of committing to the process is figuring out what is your process. You may not even know what it is, and that's okay. But just like I said, if you're in a period of exploration in your life or you're trying to figure out email marketing or podcasting or whatever it is, can you set aside some time and can you schedule it on your calendar so that it gets done? And for me, if it's not on my calendar, it's not even on my radar. Like it may be that thing that at the end of the day, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't do that. Shoot. But I believe, and this is one of the things that I had to get over myself too. The older I get, the more that I'm like, man, I could just sell accountability and make a great living off of it because people want people and environments to hold them accountable. And I find it the same for myself. But we have these deep grooves in our brain. And with the best of intentions, with the most frustration that we feel all day, sometimes we forget what we're supposed to do. And we forget, like, man, I'm supposed to schedule an hour and get deep into this because that's going to help me get out of it. But I just forgot. I totally forgot that I was supposed to do that again this week. So I'm a big believer in having alarms on my phone. I'm a big believer in sticky notes. Anything that you need to do to remind yourself that I'm supposed to do this, please give yourself permission to do that because we're all creatures of habit. And the older we get, the harder it is, no matter how bad we want to shift or change our situation, or maybe it's just take our business to the next level. So what is scheduled gets done, and you really just have to commit to the process. Be realistic. Now, some people encourage others to set these big, like outlandish, outrageous goals. And if you set a goal to hit 40 million, but you get to 30, like you should still celebrate. And I think that I think everything has its place. I think that there's a place for that. I don't think that that's where it is here. I think when it comes to building momentum, what I have found, I'm very sure of, it's really the opposite. It's starting as small as you can so that you can hit the target every single day. And if you can just show up for that, if it feels like it's this big, it's like that's way too big. But if it feels like, oh man, I can do that. I can like get on the floor and do 10 sit-ups and do 10 jumping jacks and get the momentum going and get started again, then that's what we want. We just want you to show up every single day for it. So think about what that is for you, and that's transferable to anything that it is that you're working on. And keep stacking days. That's where the momentum is built, is showing up every single day and stacking one after another after another. If you can do that and find a way to do that, success is inevitable. Like there's absolutely no way. And like people told me in my sales career, there's no freaking way that you could stop this thing if you wanted to, Christy, because I showed up and I sent my emails and I was out there talking to surgeons and I was making appointments with CEOs, and I committed to the process, and the process wasn't so big where it was like, oh my gosh, I have to I have to hit 30 million at this quarter. It was like, I can't think about that. That's way too big. What do I know has to exist? Well, I need to make 10 sales calls a week. Okay. In order to do that, I need to send this many emails every single day or every single week. And that's the process. So if it's a matter of figuring out the next step of your business or the next step of your career, set the time aside and go, okay, like what am I working on? And stack days of exploration, stack days of research, stack days of having coffee dates, stack days of reaching out to people and going like, okay, is this really what I want to do? Um, Accountability is incredibly helpful. I've had an accountability partner in Australia for the past 18 months. We meet on Mondays. And I think the thing that surprises most people when you start to get proximity is the amount of action that I take every single week. So I'm not just talking, like if I'm talking about it again, I have this fuel that's feeding this fire inside of me that I got to figure all this stuff out because I'm 44 and I just feel like there's not enough time left. And I know I have a long runway, but man, there's a lot to do. And this guy, we're already in March. So how can you hold yourself accountable to doing the activities every single day or maybe every single week? Is that an accountability partner? That may be just as simple as you jumping online and posting in your stories every single day. So that's a really good strategy for people. And I'm going to start doing this. I'm very committed to having optics and wearing my Whoop and taking a look at that and going, okay, where can I get better? I think that sleep is everything and renewal and recharging is absolutely everything. And so, people need to start going to my stories and seeing every single day I'm posting my Whoop results. They need to see every single day a picture of me in the gym. They need to see every night a picture of me in my sauna. Like they just need to see that. And if I commit to that for them, then that's my way of committing to accountability too. I don't need a partner. That's my way of saying like, man, I told you guys I was going to do this. I'm a person of my word. They're waiting on it. And also that's really helpful for my business too, because most people are looking for consistency. So the thing that I think is incredibly helpful is I will share what I do, but you need to know yourself so intimately that you're like, no, that never works, man. The alarm goes off and I'm supposed to be emailing people right now. I never do it, right? So what's the system for you that you need to employ that's going to keep you accountable? And it may just be that you need to reshame all of this and just reframe all of this and not accept the behaviors that you're allowing to accept of yourself. It may just be that. But we do know one thing to be true, that what is not tracked and measured does not get improved. And if you've ever tried to track, if has anybody ever thought like, oh, I hit my water intake today, and then you actually think about it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so far away from my water intake or my protein intake. Oh no, I'm close. I'm close to my protein intake. And then I look at it and I'm like, dude, I missed it by 40 grams 4 days in a row. Like that is, I mean, I'm gonna notice that in my physiology. That is a lot of protein. So I think it's again, I wouldn't encourage you to do this in all areas of your life, but pick the area of your life right now that is really bothering you and that you really want to make progress on. And, can you start tracking that? Can you start tracking your progress? It may be that, like, hey, you need to make 5 sales calls a day and you're only making 3. It may be that you're really focused on physiology like me and you need to be aware of your protein. But start small with one thing and get that down, and then you can add on to it. Your environment is everything. So the people that you're around are everything. Who needs to stay? Who needs to go? Who are the energy drainers? Who gives you energy? What environment gives you energy? For me, I prioritize sleep. I prioritize going to the gym. I prioritize laughter. I prioritize fun. I prioritize personal development, good nutrition. These are all the things that help me. And I think it's important when you're trying to get yourself into momentum that you understand where the best you exist, because momentum is not easy and doing big things in life is not easy. And if I'm a 5 out of 10, I'm probably not going to take a lot of inspired action today. So what makes me what's the difference between a 10 out of 10 and a 5 out of 10? Well, if I drink alcohol, I'm not going to sleep good and that's going to breed anxiety. I'm going to wake up not feeling very good tomorrow and I'm probably not going to work out as hard and I'm probably going to want pizza and donuts and there's a good chance I'm going to go get it. So like none of that is good decisions and that's going to knock me down. And so when you feel like you're a 10 out of 10, you're going to reach for the stars those days. And the things that are hard when you're feeling like a 5 don't seem as hard as a 10. So why would we even give ourselves the option to show up as a 5 out of 10? You know? So what do you need? What do you need in your environment? How can you start to starve some of the distractions and surround yourself with growth-minded people? And what systems do you need to set up in order to make things easier for yourself? Like right now, I'm in a phase of, I've opened this door of writing, and now it's like uh, I want to stay in it because when you're peeling the onion back, and I tell people that do my 12-week Unleash program, the first phase is all we're learning about ourselves, and I truly believe that if you can identify your purpose, that's when comparison stops. The world has told us who we're supposed to be, and it told me who I was supposed to be, and reconnecting. That's the first phase of that program, is reconnecting and really learning who you are, maybe even for the first time. And so I encourage them, and we're on the tail end of that first phase, the first month, to stay in it, because like if you can just stay in it, you're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's like that Russian doll, where like you lift it up and you're like, oh, there's another one. Oh my gosh, there's another one. There's another one. And I'm finding that for myself as I'm writing, that wow, there's so much here that if I pull myself out of this, then it takes a lot to get back into it, right? There's a lot that needs to happen to get back into that space. So what I'm getting at is my system right now. Like there's a system that I have for when I'm going to write, and what I do to get myself there. And I clear the deck of a lot of other things as well. I don't spend a lot of time on things that aren't getting me closer to my goals. So I ask myself, everything that I'm doing is my system. I look at my list and I go, okay, is this in my zone of genius? If not, why in the hell am I doing it? 2, is this getting me closer to my goals? 3, can this be outsourced? So that's my system to make sure that like I'm showing up and I'm staying in the things that are really important to me right now that I've identified. So what is the system that you need right now? Are you holding yourself accountable to show up and spend the time to do the things that you need? I think it's easier to tackle the hard things first part of the day, but it's also important for you to recognize what your own physiology is too. You may not get into the creative piece of your brain until nighttime after the kids go to bed. And if that's okay, if that's what works for you, then that's okay. Just recognize that that's the best system for you versus trying to do it in a place where you have a lot of resistance. No, I think I mentioned on our last call last month, I keep my chicken list on my driver's seat of my car, because when I get done working out or I get off of live TV, like that's when the adrenaline is running so high, the dopamine so high, that chicken list is not, I feel pretty good about myself in those moments. So that's when I tackle that chicken list and I send those messages, or leave the messages or make the phone calls or whatever it is that I need to do. So what system do you need right now for you to be able to get yourself into momentum? And if it's high paying activities, make sure that, sales calls, things like that, make sure that you're picking a time on your calendar where absolutely nothing could interfere with it. That's why I think first part of the day, or the end of the evening is great, because usually most people aren't bothering you during that time. And if you've read the book Atomic Habits, James Clear taught us that it's really helpful if you can make this part of your identity. That you're not just trying to build momentum, you embody momentum. Like you're an action taker, you figure things out. And this person that is working, I'm working with on brands. I was like, okay, how fast can we get this done? And he's kind of chuckling like, well, it's a process. And I said, you don't understand. Like everything that I do is summer school. Like, right. So we're not doing a whole semester. We're getting this thing done during summer school. So if anybody's ever taken a summer class versus a semester class, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. But that is my identity. And I tell people that I'm not the coach for you. You don't want to work with me if you don't want to take action, because I don't feel like I'm doing you the right service if I don't get you moving. And it doesn't mean like moving, it's just moving towards figuring it out, moving, period. The stagnation of thinking that we're going to figure it out or we're going to have results without the movement, it's just, I want everybody to be taking as much action as I am. So it's easier when this just becomes our identity. And James Clear, one of the examples in the book, it was like somebody offered two people a cigarette, and the one person said, I'm trying not to smoke. And the other person said, I'm not a smoker. Well, which one's a little bit stronger there, right? Like we're just action takers. We're going to figure this freaking thing out, and we're going to stay in it. And we're going to keep ourselves disciplined until we start to see the momentum moving forward. And the most important thing is don't stop when you start to see the momentum, because all those things that you did to get yourself in momentum will take you, if you stop doing them, eventually you're going to run out. So how do you know when you're in momentum? Well, you know that you're in momentum when people say things like how I started it off in the beginning of this call, like, man, you couldn't stop this thing if you tried. Like there is just so much. There's so much. And I remember a while ago, God rest her soul, Jessie Lee Ward, if anybody knows who that is, she said, man, I want you, I want you to see me. If you open up TikTok, I want you to see me. If you open up LinkedIn, I want you to see me. Like she was freaking everywhere. She's like, you're not going to be able to escape me. And she was in such momentum and figured out a way to produce so much content and have it across all channels. Like, man, again, that's another person's business. She put so much out there that it would take a long time. Unfortunately, she fell ill with colon cancer at the age of 30, 31, and passed away. But I'll never forget the things that she taught me, and that was one of them. She's like, I want you to see me everywhere, and that's as soon as I get this brand finished. If you follow me, it's going to be the case. It's going to be, we're repurposing everything, because I want this message to get out there. I want people to step into their purpose. And I truly believe that freedom exists once you find your purpose and you step into it. And I feel like the comparison game goes away when you start to leverage your gifts. And this is what I teach in my program. If we can find what your gifts are and we can turn those gifts, use a gift or two and help as part of how you're executing your purpose, and then figure out the platform for it, then you're going to stop looking. You're going to stop looking on social media, because all you're going to want to do, you're going to stop comparing. All you want to do is focus on getting your thing right. That's what happens. And I believe that that's where true freedom exists. When we stop looking and we go, okay, no, 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 I know who I am. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And I'm going to stay right here, and I'm going to get this as good as it can be. And I know it. I know it because I lived it. So signs that you know that you're in momentum: you feel clear and focused, even if you don't have it all figured out. And I will tell you, like the middle piece is the hardest piece to stay into. When the plane hasn't all the way landed, if you're in that phase of your business or your life and the plane has not landed yet, I give you so much credit for continuing to go, because it's the hardest spot, especially if you've been very good in the other areas of your business and now are the areas of life. That is a hard space to be in. So feeling clear and focused, if you're in the middle, like, okay, I'm getting closer, and recognizing that you're getting closer, that's a sign that you're in momentum. When action starts to feel natural, it's just part of who you are. It's your identity. And when the small wins continue to stack, and I encourage you every single day, if you're not keeping track, this is the thing that all of us high achievers never do. We never, but you do it if you work with me, because this is how another way that we get confidence and we get momentum is recognizing that we're stacking those small wins every single day. Because you may not see the progress, you may not see the results yet, but you need to recognize that you're doing the right activities, and those are wins. And there's absolutely no way you're not going to get to where you're going unless you stop doing those activities. You know you're in momentum because opportunities start to show up for you. The right people, resources, and ideas just start to align effortlessly. You have more energy. The challenges don't stop you. Again, challenges like now when I see a challenge, I'm like, okay, there's something better that's going to come out of this. I picked up my little dog a couple weeks ago, and she is incredibly attached to the husband. I mean, like glued to his side. And it's the most beautiful bond, and I love it. Just to the point where she doesn't want to come home with me. Like she comes and says hi, but then she remembers him and runs over there. But the wife made this comment this last time, and she said, she won't even sleep on my side of the bed. All she wants to do is sleep on his side of the bed. And I was like, okay, yeah. And as we were leaving and she's shutting the door, she said, finally, she said, now I get my husband back. And I could just tell, like, vibes don't lie. And I think a lot of people overlook vibes. But she said, now I get my husband back. And I looked at her face and I caught the vibe, and I was like, oh wow, this is like really a thing for you now. This is really a thing. And I was thinking like, man, I got this trip to San Diego this week, like this weekend. I reached out and I said, hey, I have 2 trips coming up. And I could see on Rover that our schedule is wide open. And I was like, I got these 2 trips, wanted to see if you're interested. And she goes, we'll do the first one, but not the second. And I was like, all right, the vibes are matching. All right, got it. And I'm like, man, last thing I want to do is go through this process of figuring out um like what's happening here, right? Like and finding a new not finding a new sitter. And but challenges, there's always something beautiful on the other side of a challenge. And we met with the most amazing young woman who I know appreciates the opportunity and sees how amazing little Millie is. So, when you're in momentum in life, like those things just don't stop you. You see a challenge and you're like, okay, you know that something beautiful is going to come on the other side of it, and you just plow forward. I could have booked her for that first week, but I'm like, I'm not gonna, I know my stuff, and I'm not gonna be able to do what I need to do at Secret Knox in San Diego, knowing that my dog is over here and some woman is jealous of the bond that my dog has with her husband. I mean, I just can't. You start to trust yourself more. Your decisions, you make decisions quickly and you take bold action. And this is the thing that I strive for. Like this is the goal at the end of the day, and all of my work and in my Unleash program is I want people to trust themselves and stop looking for external validation, stop looking for permission from everybody else. I want you to know yourself so well that you know how to make decisions, you know what's best for you. And it's a process because we have to do quite a bit of discovery. Consistency becomes a habit. Your routines and your habits start to work for you, not against you. Your confidence is unshakable. You believe in yourself and your ability to figure things out, and you feel unstoppable. Success feels inevitable because you know that you're just getting started. You're doing all the right activities, and it's bound to happen. Like the only way you're not going to get there, the only way you're not going to get that bikini body is if you stop eating right and you stop going to the gym. I mean, like that's it, right? And it's the same thing when you're figuring out the next step or you're looking to build momentum in an area that you've backed away from. So that is all that I have for you. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? Whether it's related to this or anything else?
I have a question, please.
Yeah.
I, I never have thought about keeping the tracker journey.
Mm.
Uh, and I can't believe I've never thought about that. That's a great golden nugget. And do you keep those categorically separate of that you're tracking? Did I ask that question right? You referenced several categories that might be valuable to track.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important to, if there's one or two things that are really, really important to you, start tracking that. But yeah, I think anything that's in that anything that's important to you should be tracked and should be measured. And you should always go back and calibrate too and go, okay, is this working for me? Do I need to up it? Do I need to still do this anymore? Is this still relevant in my life? Do I need to change the way that I'm doing it? So for me right now, water intake I track, protein intake I track. Sleep is incredibly important. I am always wearing my Whoop. The other score that I look at a lot is recovery. So that was a big thing that I used to get myself into a lot is I would work out so hard that I'd blow the executive function part of my brain for like 3 days. And I'm like, damn it, but I like working out that hard and I like the results, but like, how can I do that and still not like be laid up on the couch for 3 days and just seeing the recovery. If I'm not recovered enough, I don't work out that hard.
So I'm building a entrepreneurship and building work culture, which is my aspiration in industry.
Yep.
Is tracking tools would be your approach to different, because there's so many moving parts in trying to communicate with the industry these days, especially past COVID. Uh,
Yeah.
what do you recommend as tracking parts to building a clientele? I guess in any, does that make sense?
I think so. Let me just ask a follow-up question. Are you saying in terms of like getting the word out there and getting business for yourself?
Yeah, that and just being able to set the hook, I guess. That's kind of the problem I think I'm having a difficult with. I've got the connections, I've got the people, but I can't really get them to identify and buy into what the my objectives are.
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, then on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in your messaging right now?
Uh, I'm confident in what I'm saying and trying to present to them, but I don't. I get to a lot of my. I may be talking to the wrong people. I'm talking to a lot of the HR people in
Yeah.
the industry, and so I get the impression in talking to them, it feels like it's more work with them that I'm
Yep.
trying to put on them. I'm trying to make it easier for them, and they're a hard group to sell because uh, I don't know. I'm just running into dead ends and trying to get them to buy into what I think they need. I may be trying to sell something that's not sellable.
Well, maybe. But I think you just said two things that would be a great thing to track and measure and identify. So, being able to test out and get validation that the program is something that they will buy. So is this a viable, is your program, is it viable and is it branded appropriately, the messaging? And then number two would be, who's the call point? Is it the sales managers? Is it the manager, the director? Is it HR? So I think that those would be then the trackable things that you'd want to focus on is getting data. So how many more people can you pitch to be able to get data? Can you start pitching other call points to see, is it an HR thing or is it a messaging thing? Is it
Okay.
a program viability thing?
All right. Thank you. That's two good uh, points. I'll follow up on the validation of the program and the call point contacts. That's something very tractable, and I've got access to track those, but I haven't been doing that. So I need to log those in and see where the path goes to. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I think that through that process, then if it is the right thing for you to launch, then there's going to be so much confidence that's built in that process of validation too, that you'll know with certainty. So now you're going to present yourself differently, and it's still not going to land with everybody, right?
Mhm.
But at least you know that this is my offering, and that's what I'm working on right now is the offering and the brand messaging. I am locked solid on so much of it, and now it's just making sure. Now we're going to start tinkering with the messaging and going, okay, this is what the program offers, but what are the pain points? Because me sending somebody a 3-page sheet of the program is like, I would never read that. Would you guys? No, right? But if I put a social media post up and I hit your pain point like that, well, now you're going to read that thing because now you're like, man, she can solve the pain point. So now that we validated the program and we have all the content, now for me, it's validating the messaging. So if I start running Facebook and Instagram messages, what are like the 5 or 10 pain points? And so I'm back to that same drawing board in that respect of what does that messaging look like and how it's landing. So I'm going to start with my current cohort and previous cohorts and really just think about like why they come to me, what was the pain point, and then we'll start testing.
All right. Thank you, Christy.
You're welcome, Jeff. Any other questions?
I just want to add some observations that I had this week, and then it'll lead into the question. Maybe this will help somebody else that's sitting here as well without stealing the thunder here. I heard a quote last week that says, "Never forget who holds the pain. Never forget who holds the pen in writing your story." And that has just been sitting with me for the past week. Just going back to your gym reference earlier. it's easy for us to go into a gym or something else and do whatever it is that's comfortable for us. We could be taking action towards that, but at the same time, we know ourselves, we shouldn't be afraid to take whatever that next step is, even if we're not able to, if it was a gym reference, make those repetitions, just getting outside of our comfort zone and just trusting ourselves and knowing that we're ready for that. As far as my question, pain is the ultimate motivator for me, but there's a lot of things that have been ingrained in me growing up. I won't get into it, but a lot of it is just kind of like that mental aspect of it. One of the goals that I have for myself is to qualify for Boston. Nowhere near there yet, but making some great progress for that. Going back to the steps that you have there, deciding to move immediately, clarity comes from action. What would be your recommendation in helping to identify what is it that's holding you back from doing what you need to do? Because I feel for me, until I'm able to address that question, I'm not even able to get through all six of these steps and this is just like this tug of war that I have with myself. I have a lot of the answers. I just don't have the applications of those answers. But I know that if I sit in pain long enough, I'm going to want to do something. I can't just accept the status quo. So that's my question.
Yeah. So why do you want to run this marathon? Why do you want to qualify for Boston?
Because I've done it for charity before, and I know how uncomfortable it was to step outside and just knock on doors and speak to people and raise the money that was required for that. But for me, it's a way of just proving to myself that what seems unachievable. I mean, I'm a runner anyway, so on paper that just looks completely unachievable. Like I'm in my 40s, so how am I possibly going to be able to run 3 hours and 15 minutes? How am I possibly going to be able to run 7-minute miles for 26 miles? So same thing that you were saying, starting small and stacking wins. So for me, I think that would just fill my cup. And at the same time, it would manifest in other areas of my life because it would give me the confidence to tackle other things that may seem impossible at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I love that you know that. That's why we push ourselves physically because it transfers over into everything else, and then the hard things don't become so hard because we've already been through that. And so so if you go to your deathbed and don't do this and don't even try to do this, are you cool with that? Like if
Absolutely
tomorrow
not.
you got it,
I'm gonna have the biggest regrets, whether it's this or something else. Just
yeah,
knowing that I had an opportunity, I had potential, and our most important commodity is our health.
yeah,
And I don't want to look back on you were talking earlier about, wow, I'm 40 something. I got to really get like moving with this. I don't want to have those regrets knowing that, we all have different skills. We're all able to bring something to the universe and to the people that we come in contact with and make a difference in their life. We all could be helpers for that. But if we don't do that, and whether it's fear or something else, we're not only cheating ourselves, but we're cheating the people that we have an opportunity to make a greater impact and to create that snowball. Because if people see what we're doing, it's going to give them the confidence to step outside their comfort zone, whether or not they verbalize that to us or not.
yeah. We know that that's what happens. If anybody has lived in personal development, we become the example, and somebody else was the example for us. So you don't want to go. You don't want to go to your deathbed with this one. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, but I also want to be able to have just a strategy to identify what it is that's holding me back. Because I think part of it, I mean, without getting into therapy jargon here, it's like believing that like I'm not enough. But there's other people here that are doing either me doing or exceeding what I'm doing. So obviously they're not dealing with that. They found a way to overcome that. So I think if I'm able to answer that question, I'll really be able to move that needle.
Yeah. And is this feeling common for you in other parts of your life? Like feeling like you're not enough, that you can't do it?
I'm super laser focused with my fitness, with my personal development, with strengthening my mind, with grit, resilience, and things like that. But when it comes to growing in a professional way where I'm going to have money and not have to worry about a lot of things that people are dealing with right now on a monetary aspect, not as committed.
Yeah. And do you feel like you're not worthy of that either?
I feel that I'm worthy of it. I just don't necessarily know what the next right thing is for me.
Okay. And are you willing to use this marathon as proof that you can do it?
I mean, over time, I mean, I beat Oprah's time, so I'm happy about that, but it's just all about just stacking wins, like you were saying, those small wins. So
Yeah.
not, when I think there's like a line in the movie, Wall Street or whatever, like whatever, like how much money do you need? And the response was more. We're always going to have this insatiable appetite with whatever it is that we're chasing. So, once we get that, we're looking on to the next thing. So ultimately, that's how I like view any type of success, acknowledging the win that it took to get there, but not just willing to just, okay, I won the Super Bowl last year, great. Let me go ahead and celebrate and knock out like a case of beer. No, we need to start like thinking about what the next thing is for us in our life that's going to help take us to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. How many miles do you run right now a day?
I mean, I've slowed down a little bit because I'm not training for anything. So my next one will probably be Marine Corps marathon. But when I'm heavy in training, probably about 40 to 50 miles a week. And I live in Florida, so everybody knows how hot it is. And that's where the commitment and the discipline comes in because I have to get up while the rest of the world is sleeping to
Yeah.
fulfill the promises that I have for myself. I'm
Do you
making
have
my
kids, Scott?
now.
No kids. Okay. Um, so you said something at the beginning that I think is incredibly important, and I think that we all it's a learning opportunity for all of us, and that you already know that pain is a huge motivator for you,
Mhm.
right? And what I find, unfortunately, is that most of us don't move until we're in excruciating pain. We don't leave the job. We don't like, and I was actually writing about this weekend is how, and I feel like the answer is getting to the youth and helping them connect with themselves. But I feel like for the vast majority of us as adults, we don't make a big move unless we're in excruciating pain. And I think that you shouldn't overlook that and recognize how can you connect to the pain that you're going to feel. And the pain sounds like regret, the pain of not being that example for people. How can you further connect to that and let that be your driving force to get your ass out there and to do this and come up with a plan and start stacking wins. The other thing that comes to mind, and I don't know if this lands with you at all or not, but there's a pattern that I recognize in myself, and it's an upper limit problem. And so whenever I'm getting close to reaching an upper limit, a new level for myself, I sabotage in a certain way. And oftentimes people either we do it by worrying, we do it by start picking a fight with somebody, like everything's going great in my relationship over or finances, but I go home and pick a fight with my partner. For me, it's sickness. And this happened to me 3 times in a row. The first time I was like, okay, could be total coincidence that we went into Vegas when COVID just started and everybody like there was no way we weren't going to get COVID. I got COVID, but I spoke on my first really big stage. Second time I spoke on a really big stage in Vegas, guess what I got? COVID. Third time I spoke on a really big stage, guess what I got? COVID. Fourth time I saw it surface and it finally clicked to me. I interviewed Bradley. I don't know if you know who that is, and I just saw myself differently and I saw how people were starting to see me. And I realized that it was all right there. Like everything I wanted was right there. And guess what started to happen? I started to get sick. And so I'm like, damn, this is a thing for me. And all this stuff that is happening right now with me working on my brand and writing, I'm seeing something different too. And guess what happened? Well, I had this like crazy thing happen with my sciatic. And now I'm like in physical therapy for that. And I'm like, this is my upper limit. This is what happens. So a lot of us when we're on the other side and we know that if we do this thing, it's going to propel us into a whole new dimension. Sometimes we self-sabotage, and I'm curious to know if that's like a common thing that you start to think like, I'm not worthy of this, or who am I to think that I could do something like this? That's another way where that upper limit problem could exist. Another one for me is procrastination. So like I could go sell the deal, like I could go sell the thing, but then I used to like wait 3 days to send the contract. You know? And I was like, whoa, that's another upper limit thing. I was procrastinating because now I'm in my head thinking like, I'm not worthy of all this money. I'm not worthy of like, what did I really do to get this deal? So that may be something you want to explore too. Anybody else? Well, I hope this was helpful. There's a couple of resources I have for you. If you have not done, I have a Your Unstoppable Day. It's a free resource for you to plan out your unstoppable day. So you show up for all the things that you're supposed to, no matter what. That's one module of my success blueprint. So there's 6 modules of my success blueprint. Unstoppable Day is one of them. The whole thing's $99. And then any woman who is looking to go through my Unleash program, the next one starts on May 4th, and you can apply at christycool.com. As always, stay in touch on social media. I hope to see you back here next month for a new topic. And if there's anything I can do in the meantime, please reach out.
Thanks, Christy.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Hmm. Oh, that's what that was.